telco companies, they just entered into the financial sector, acquiring the microfinance bank, which is comparatively lower in size and very few branches, right? And if we just look at those telcos with the microfinance bank as a challenger bank, then we just see it as our main competitors in a sense that there were around 12 million accounts 5 years back in the Pakistan's population of 200 plus, right? And the additional 20 million accounts, we call it the wallet accounts, were introduced mainly by these challenger banks. And this happened because they actually changed the way the banking is done. I mean, the main crux behind is that they actually utilized the branchless banking concept, where these challenger banks actually didn't open the branches, but they actually just signed the contract with the small agents and small shopkeepers all over the country. So right now there are, there is a challenger bank in Pakistan having 150,000 agents all over the country. So they are not actually having any OPEX on the branches side, but they are actually having a kind of partnership model with the agents and the customer, because the banks, actually what the banks are missing right now, the traditional banks, that they are just focusing on a high net worth customer, they are just opening the fancy branches only. But if you just really go into the ground, then I actually just myself went into the villages and the far-flung areas of Pakistan, and the people actually have the fear factor in going to the branches. So, you know that actually once the use of the technology and the branchless banking regime just came into, and there were another 20 million accounts opened in last 5 years. So saying this thing, what I am saying that yes, the technology and the digital disruption is actually exploring and enabling any financial institute, rather it's a commercial bank, it's a microfinance bank, or it's a neo bank or challenger bank. One thing is really sure, and even the banks in Pakistan are realizing this thing, that the digital disruption is something that you cannot stop, and this can leverage your actually outreach to the customer even at the far-flung areas. So yes, the landscape in the Pakistan banking sector is really changing a lot, and the dots are being connected. And we really, as a commercial bank, consider the challenger banks and the new banks as the major competitors.
Okay, interesting. There's another point about culture that I want to address a little bit later. But I want to go to Rizwan from Habib Bank, Zurich. The rise of these challenger banks means this is often mobile only. So technology creates a frictionless dealing with the banks, or seamless. I now know I have to continuously say and use the word seamless. But there's also a security issue here, right? Rizwan, can you share your thoughts on some of the security concerns? Are there security challenges when you deal with neobanks, or when you want to interact maybe with fintechs? What are the major risk factors according to you?
Thank you. A rise of the technology which giving you advantage for being seamless transactions, easy at home doing the transactions, but at the same time that requires you to be aware of the risks, what are going to be happen, because now authentication and the other requirements you are shifting from your own bank towards the customer. So the biggest risk factors which I see in this is that your devices, the mobile devices, the one you are using there, I do see there that the programming bugs that needs to be very much required to be aware of it, that need to be tested at highest level. For example, device is not in the control of the bank, device is in the control of the owner of the company, Apple or Google or etc. What about if there is a security bug is there? Bank cannot control it, and nowadays it is a digital media. Within minutes, it is highlighted everywhere that this bug is there. Now, the challenge with the neo banking and these ecosystems, that how to protect them. Should they stop the services, or should they have some other way around, because they want to at any cost to serve the customer? And then at the other way around is your infrastructure. Since this is again digital, and if we go back few decades back, there was a cyber highway, and nowadays very popular is cyber security. So the challenge with the cyber security will come very much higher for us. It's not easy to handle it out. And at the same time, this system needs to be aware with the people how to use it, how to control their own devices. Now the smart devices are in their control. The system have a limited control, or should they stop it? Because now, if you stop it, then the service disruption, that is another problem. So I see the devices, programming, and the infrastructure security will become a very big risk factor for the organizations, those who are looking into this new banking or challenging banking system.
Okay, yeah, that's clear. I mean, I recognize that. I mean, cybersecurity is definitely hot also in the VC community, and lots of players come on board. And I guess as the banks are a major target, they have a lot of experience in dealing with cybersecurity. That could be an added benefit for customers to stay with their banks that are now going mobile. I want to move to Javed from SilkBank. A few questions to you as well. I mean, I know that you guys also have a separate bank. It's called Ayman, and is focused on Islamic banking. Now, what about Islamic banking in the world of neobanks? I mean, is that a specific niche that could be really interesting on an international level as well? Because it's easy to reach so many people across the world. Is that an opportunity for you guys?
Hello. Actually, the question to me is totally U-turn from digital to Islamic, and I'm not fully prepared for this, but the factor is this: Islamic banking is catching up in Pakistan, and the pace and the growth is very fast. But when it comes to Islamic, there are certain factors which needs to be taken care, which are especially a Sharia law, and every bank has to follow a specific Sharia. So the challenge with the banks is to come up with a product which their Sharia board has to approve. So when it comes to digitization and reaching to the customer, especially with the ecosystem, Islamic have a very limited advantage when it comes to playing around in the market of the payment ecosystem. Yes, but when it comes to the digital Islamic banking concept, which we also are working and evaluating, not working, we are evaluating, it seems to be a bigger proposition and can get bigger and bigger because it's a faith-based, number one, and I've seen so many people in the country or even in this region also believe in standard banking, which is basically Islamic banking. So as far as digitization is concerned, it's in a nurturing stage. First level, people are thinking how to bring value proposition into it, and we are at the very first stage on this. But as far as other thing is concerned, what you said is the challenger ecosystem. I don't consider them as a challenger. Since I've started my journey for the digital for the last 2 years, I always consider them as a partner. If we don't collaborate, we are not going to survive. Nothing is going to survive. A year back, FinTech were the challenger. Now, banks have acquired the FinTech and FinTechs are gone, technically speaking. If you see, the major banks have acquired the FinTech as a part of their arms. So, TechFin is the next challenge, which recently the president of the RAC Bank, the CEO of the RAC Bank, has said TechFin, which is Google and Apple Pay, and these are the real challenger and the disruptor for us. So the bank like HSBC, and they have to be ready because their market share is at the very high verge. But at our level, we have a major thing to be done in the banking. For example, this is one pillar of the ecosystem, which is the payment ecosystem, which is a very, very basic thing. And I feel most of the transactions, which are the payment transactions, are now straight through already. But when it comes to digital lending, when it comes to the trade, treasury, and all these things, we are miles away from digitization.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
That's the difference between. So,
no, I think it's an interesting perspective because, you know, FinTech 3.0 is really all about collaboration. But in order to collaborate, whether it's big tech, whether it's FinTech, scale-ups, it's not just the technology. I mean, obviously you need to be an API-driven company, be open. But at the same time, it's also about mindset. It's about culture. So I just want to just throw in the word, you know, this is all about changing the mindset of the people in the bank. What's your perspective on that? So just moving away a little bit from the technology, because that's clear, you guys do a lot of initiatives. Some of you are a little bit further ahead than others. Banks indeed are bouncing back. We see that many banks are calling themselves now technology companies. They're saying, we're not a bank, we're a technology company that is providing financial services. You see BBVA doing that, ING is doing that, many banks. So there's a change there. But what about the people in your teams? What about the cultural mindset of the people? I just want to open up. Who wants to, who has a thought? Yes.
I had a very good experience. I spent my career with Citibank, MCB, Habib Bank, and then the bank. And I was always in the financial services and technology, infrastructure, payment system. And for the last 3-4 years, I've been given the cap of establishing a digital. And I have left the technology for 3 years. I was not part of the technology because if I sat in the technology, which is the waterfall method of doing the things, I might not have think through anything. So in the last 3 years, what I was able to establish a second tier of IT, which is Scrum based and Agile based. And then now we have combined both, because the model which we are trying to work out, a separate technology for the bank, which is waterfall, and the agile technology for the digitization, are separately not working. They become a Chinese wall between them, and then again become issues, because there are certain delivery over there and there are certain delivery. And in terms of agile, they were not coping it up. So now we have combined both, and we are seeing the fantastic results coming out, because both the technology, agile and the waterfall, are under one umbrella. Mindset is clear. For the waterfall people, you have to do it today, and for the agile people, you have to bear with them because they might have some issue in their normal setup. So I'm enjoying this time, and this is the best combination which I recommend for the organizations.
Okay, so yeah, so you've introduced this new way of working, multidisciplinary teams. I think that's a big change in banks, that you no longer have separate IT departments and then business units, but it becomes much more integrated. Rizwan, your take on this notion about it's all about changing the culture in the company, next to, of course, the technology, but also understanding the changing behaviors of customers, of course.
Just as Javed said, that there is a collaboration between technology and the bank. They are working together. As a CISO, what I look into it is who is the owner of the data. Data ubiquity is everywhere. New challenges for the data security is there. So between two partners, who will be the owner there? And then the regulatory requirements on the top of it is like GDPR and the PCI DSS. Those are also become a challenge for us nowadays. Nowadays, regulatory compliance is too much as compared to the previous one. What will happen? The security of the device inside, the mobile inside, and who is the owner of this security. So these will become a challenge in the future. If we have some written drawing and in line, everything is who is the owner of the data. Data ownership is a big challenge as of now for us. Then we will be very much clear to move forward. So we have to look into it, and we have to face these issues. If we look into when the Apple Pay launched, and there were approximately 6% frauds were happened there because they were not using the CVV as a security code, and there were no OTP. Now we are growing it out. So looking into those challenges is data security will become a very big challenge in the future for this ecosystem.
Okay, thank you with that. Shahid, may I ask your view on cultural mindset, what it means for you guys, and how you've been dealing with that? Because you can have all the technology in the world, doesn't mean you're really open to deal with these challenges, fintechs or big tech.
Actually, the new and challenger banks have the advantage over here, by the way, on the commercial banks, you know, running for last 50 years with the traditional way of doing the banking. So in a short statement, I just call it an open heart surgery for the bank, where the surgeon must have the willingness to save the patient, by the way. So this is a kind of open heart surgery. It's a kind of like bank within a bank. I have also just heard, you know, the statement from the CEOs of the bank where they just call their bank as an IT company with the banking license, right? So the digital transformation in the existing commercial bank, I would say that the technology is around 30%, and the 70% is actually the cultural change and the willingness to really transform the bank digitally. And one more thing is that it's a journey, it's not a project. So actually you have to gradually transform, and you have to be very patient and have to invest the money a lot. And you know, it's a very kind of a strategic journey rather than a single project. One more thing on a very fair note that I have actually just realized in the banking industry, that generally the CEOs are aging around 55 to 60 plus, right? So there is actually a very big generation gap, in a sense that literally the people with a certain age group cannot understand the real value of the social media, the digital identity. If we just look at the biggest community of the world, even beyond China, is actually the Facebook community, more than 2.5 billion people, like, you know, and they are actually spending the quality time over there. So when we talk about the digital transformation, then you have to actually remodel your whole banking journey. I mean, then you don't need to have a billboard on the main road of your country, but maybe you have to spend more money in the social media, because you have to capture the potential customer from the social media. You have to then market them, you have to then onboard them digitally, and then you have to engage them digitally for the final, you know, banking services. So this is actually the whole transformation journey. It's not a single click formula. This is not something that a bank just decides to be digital today, and after 3 months, the bank say that now we are digital. It's not like that. So it's a total 360-degree change in the culture, in the mindset, business model, technology stake. So everything is changed if you really want to be truly digital, rather than just launching a mobile app, right?
Yeah. Okay, so in your view, there are so many elements, goes from strategy until tech, until also changing the mindset and taking the customer with you. Well, it's a nice metaphor, this being an open heart surgery. The question is, will the patient survive? Okay, Genwa, just you know, you deal in HSBC on a global level with all these challenges, and you know, we see customers changing, a changing mindset, a changing appetite. It's also largely to do with innovation. And if we talk about technology and we talk about a change, and the customer, what comes to mind for you? What would be the best response of the banks? Just throwing new mobile apps to them, or how would you deal with this changing appetite?
I think the key for, you know, if I look at it, one of the observations that I find nowadays is like we always jump to solution and we socialize the problem versus to address what exactly the problem is. So the answer to a problem could be a mobile app, but I don't want to really like, you know, put a mobile app without really understanding what exactly the problem I'm going to really try to use. So the first thing is like essential is to understand the use case that I'm trying to really sort out. That use case could be sorted out by an app or by a functionality or a feature in one of the channels, or actually it could be sorted out by eliminating the whole thing and STP it from end to end in digitalized mode. So I think that's the first you know, key for me, is like trying to understand what exactly the problem that we are trying to sort. From an HSBC perspective and the mindset and the culture, etc., digital is in our strategy. So digital is first. Whenever we want to really do something, it has to be digital. And if it cannot be digital, then we can justify that. If you look at the technology aspect of our strategy, cloud is first, API is first, ecosystem is first, AI and machine learning is first, big data is first. These are the collaboration with the fintechs is first. Fintech has always been for us actually an opportunity. We've never really treated fintech as a threat at any point of time. We do have an investment, you know, running on for the last 4 years in investing in fintechs and trying to identify the opportunities where we can really leverage on them. We have a technology advisory board at group level, chaired by our group CIO as well as the main CEOs of the line of businesses and specifically the investment bank and CEO. so that we can see how can we invest in those fintechs. So I think the mindset is there. Our digital, kind of a strategy is there. This year we are investing $5 billion in technology across the whole organization. But definitely it remains the challenge in terms of your use cases, in terms of the market, in terms of the priorities, and how do you want to really become up to speed with all of the things that is happening. But to answer again, to summarize, answering your question, I don't want to solutionalize something. I want to really understand the use case that I'm trying to sort out and see whether digital is the right thing or not.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of talk about customer-centric banking, moving from product to people, then from people to product. But that starts really with asking the question, and who's the customer indeed? And what's the problem? What problem are we solving with this? Okay, great. We've come to the end of the panel discussion. Obviously, we're here available after the session as well to have individual conversation. I guess you guys will hang around as well. I really want to thank you. Let me just briefly sum up here. There's this new phenomenon of the rising challenger banks. It seems to be a green field for innovation, for fintechs indeed, but also for big tech. But banks are indeed bouncing back, and we witnessed here some of the stories here. There are security concerns. Banks are well equipped to deal with those security concerns, having this sort of trust brand and reputation behind them. But at the same time, let's not just focus on the technology when we are transforming our proposition. Let's really look at the customer, and it also starts with us. I mean, digital transformation in reality starts with each individual and how we move into this. And indeed, Shahid, it is a journey. It's not something like a big bang and we've launched a new core banking system and then we're done. No, it is a journey. It's also learning about understanding the customer's behavior over time and then helping them along the way in dealing with their problems. Okay, guys, many thanks. And thank you, audience.